James Fender,
Present.
Tom Duffy,
Here.
Jesse Betcher,
Here.
Brian Bissonette, Stacy Hessel.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Madam Clerk, will you compliance with open meetings laws?
The meeting of the notice to the public and news media as required by section 1924 of the Wisconsin statute.
Everyone had a chance to look at the agenda. Is there any modification changes? We don't have Brian today. Public comment. I have one comment that's been registered. Mrs. Zoomer, do you want to address now or do you want to speak at item number 13?
Number 13, if you will allow it.
All right, so you want to reserve your time for item 13?
Yes, please.
Moving on to number 6, or is anybody else? Anybody with their hand up? Anybody not on the agenda, which is to address the committee? Hearing none. Number 6, the minutes for the June meeting have been presented. Mr. Duffy. A motion for Mr. Duffy.
Also.
Go ahead.
Second for Mr. Betcher. Motion is to approve the minutes as presented. Any discussion of the motion? Hearing no discussion, call for the vote. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Going on to number 7, Sawyer County Agricultural Fair Association report. Anybody here from Sawyer Fair? Moving on to UW Extension. Do we have anybody from UW Extension today? Number 9, Hayward Lakes Visitor and Convention Bureau.
Yes,
Ms. Beckman. Ms. Beckman appears via Zoom.
Yes.
Ms. Beckman, the floor is yours.
Okay, so I did submit a report, and I just wanted to let you know that we did pass our budget, and I will get that to Mike Keefe, the request for funds from you guys prior to July 30th. And then I wanted to let you know that we got a new furnace for the information center. And then I just did some kind of tracking for the last 3 years, from January to May, like walk-in traffic, Google searching, and vacation guide requests, and just kind of showing you how the trend is going. We did a nice ATV. ATVing has been very popular with the media. They've been contacting me a lot and wanting to come up here and check out our trails and things you can do on the trail, places you can eat and stuff. So anyway, so it was a really fun day. We had 17 riders from this. I couldn't have done it without the Sawyer County Snowmobile and ATV Alliance. They set up all the riders, and then we had the Department of Tourism was here. So then we'll get 15 of those professional pictures that we can use for anything we want to use it for. And then they'll also give us a 30-second video that we'll be able to use how we want. So that was kind of exciting. Social media, we've started a summer selfie contest, and it goes till September 16th. So if you're out doing anything fun or you've got people visiting, make sure they hashtag Hayward Lake Day on Facebook and Instagram, and they can win some prizes. Our followers have increased by 12% on Facebook and 8% on Instagram just from January. So they're watching us and following us. Room tax, the town of Edgewater met at their June meeting and they voted no. The town of Round Lake is meeting this Thursday and they're going to vote. So we'll see how that goes. And then the town of Bass Lake started collecting July 1st. And then some of the free PR we got in the month of June. And that's about it. I mean, I know the tourists are here. You guys know they're here. You can see them. So it's been a good summer so far.
Any questions for Ms. Beckman? Hearing no questions, thank you for your report. Moving on to number 10, Northwest Regional Planning Commission. So, Mr. Hoff, this is, I think we're going on month number 4, where we've got nothing from Northwest Regional Planning, but there seems to be a lot of discussion with the county board from Northwest Regional Planning. So I'm a little bit concerned that maybe this committee is not getting the respect it ought to have from Mr. Johnson, and if you could convey that to him. Moving on to number 11, Economic Development Corporation report. Mr. Gardner.
Good morning. You have my report. I just wanted to feature a few items. One is we certainly appreciate the county's support for the broadband proposals that came forward out of the town of Lenroot and the town of Edgewater. Certainly have high hopes for making headway on those two projects. The Economic Development Corporation Board did approve $500 in public contribution support to help bolster those submittals. So we will see where that goes. An item that has been finalized since my report was developed was something that's we're excited about. It's called the Sawyer County Reentry Culinary Academy. It's in partnership with the Sawyer County Jail and Northwest Wisconsin Workforce Investment Board. They'll be offering training in the jail beginning the end of August and through September, utilizing instruction from all the major institutions that train kitchen help, cooks, and just general work preparedness. This was, we were able to do this with a $5,000 anonymous donation we received in 2019 that we were not able to utilize till now. And we're pleased to have this move forward. It's been a successful program that's been evolving through Bayfield and Price counties, and it's anticipated that based on this success with those others, that it's something that can get a little bit more substantial and ongoing. We also are in the planning stages for what's called the Wisconsin Tribal Nations Tour. It's planned to happen at in partnership with the Economic Development Corporation and the Culinary Ojibwe College. It's really an amazing opportunity that has bode well for other tribal nations in Wisconsin that have conducted it. Basically, the Federal Economic Development Administration, Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation, Small Business Administration, First American Capital Corporation, all come to the meeting, listen to the tribe's needs, opportunities, and then they can get personal in strategizing some options for the tribe. That's tentatively scheduled for August. We're hoping that that's going to be a breakthrough moment for tribal priorities. We also are planning some workshops and seminars with the Wisconsin SCORE chapter. They have grant funding to bring some of their programs here to Sawyer County. We'll have more to announce as those are developed for fall. Those are the main points that things are moving fast, and we're pleased to have this report.
Any questions for Mr. Gardner?
A question, Mr. Chairman. I think you should look at every business in this county has problems with help. What's the problem? Why aren't there people who want to work? What can we do? Huh?
Unemployment.
Is that what it is? I mean, what stand should we take? But restaurants and bars are closing early because there isn't help.
Yeah, I mean, unemployment, as Stacy said, is probably the foremost indicator of that. I expect that it's probably a little more complex than that, but you know, we likely have created a little bit of an entitlement mentality that people are waiting on something, but it's hard to get a real handle on the specifics per industry sector. Obviously, the seasonals in general are the most challenged in that regard, and you know, in some small way, we hope this reentry program will provide the skills and motivation for people that may otherwise not had that opportunity to move forward and fill some of those gaps. That's why it's targeted for that industry sector.
Any other questions for Mr. Gardner? All right, thank you for your report. Moving on, number 12, Mr. Mr. Marowczak,
Morning.
how are you?
Good, good. Guards motorized trails and such, we've been working with the VCB, promoting the area for ATVs come here. And I think as everybody can see, this last weekend, there's been a lot of ATV traffic around. For that matter, the whole month has been real good for ATVs. The one part of concern that Mrs. Elmer brought up here to me a little while ago, with the lack of rain right now, we got dust out there, so any of the trails that are nearby the roads and such like that, there's a dust factor coming over and such. In the past, we have talked about putting down some material over the top of it to control the dust, but hopefully we get rain today and we'll cure that problem. But otherwise, everything's been going great with the ATV world.
Any questions for Mr. Marowczak?
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to number 13, potential uses of ARPA funding. Ms. Zomer has filed a request to address the committee. Ms. Zomer, you can start things off.
Thank you very much. I watched last month's.
You're probably gonna have to move up closer to one of the mics. I don't know who's online or not. Won't be able to hear you.
Silver, Edgewater property owner. I watched last month's meeting via Zoom and was concerned that there was such rapid movement. I understand there was a July deadline to submit for funding, but such rapid movement to commit such large funding for the broadband uses. And specifically, there was some confusion as to where the Edgewater route was, lack of knowledge about maybe prior improvements that have been made along that stretch. So it seems to me that maybe a role of the EDC could be to identify where and what types of service already exist in the county so that it can help you make an informed decision as to where the best use of those funds should be. Because I understand that along that route where I have an old property, the CenturyLink already upgraded service. And so are we duplicating something? Is it really going to help stretch further into the county? And so I guess my public comment with regard to that, I'm sorry, my memory's not that good, is on June 25th, Mark O'Connell from Wisconsin Counties Association, Mike Colas from the Towns Association, and Jerry DeShane from the League of Wisconsin Municipalities all participated in a couple-hour seminar workshop, if you will, and it's available to you on WiseEye about to take it slow and get public comment and use your county comprehensive plans or whatever comprehensive plans you have to help determine the best use of these ARPA funds and slow down as things continue to evolve as far as uses. So I guess I would ask Sawyer County to really reevaluate a process. I know that's been in the discussion of how those funds will be invested because to just release these funds and maybe wish you had them later is, I hate to see that happen. I think another worthwhile effort would help better educate the public, just as Mr. Hoff has helped educate you as to how these ARPA funds are to be used, and then get public input. And maybe it's a good chance to look at things that the county's already doing and better define it. Speaking specifically to non-motorized trails, and we haven't had representatives come for a long time, primarily Mr. Saunders from the Stone Lake area used to come here and request funds for a county map. County Highway F in Edgewater is designated on a map as being a bike route, but it is not a safe bike route. County used to provide funding to help publish that map, and I think the DCB has taken that over. But I think it's a liability. I saw that happening on over the weekend with a lot of near misses. So please look at maybe a real bike master. I think it was a master plan for pedestrians and bikes is something that the county could invest in to designate, where funds should be invested and maybe take some unsafe routes off. Or even coordinate simple things like county mowing of roadsides. Edgewater seems to fall to the bottom of the list as far as the other priorities for the highway department's construction and mowing. And so even sight lines, if you go along Highway F, mowing could make it safer. So again, use of ARPA funds to better align what you're doing and then better invest your funds going forward. Thank you.
Mr. Hoff. Potential uses of ARPA funds.
Yeah, thank you for your comments. We have ARPA funds available. That's the American Rescue Plan, 3.2 million of which we have in-house, half of that, and we'll get the other half next summer. And we've talked at the county board level and at each committee level about how to spend those funds. So as far as the Economic Development Committee is concerned, there are a couple of categories that you can look at to see if any of these are potential uses for those funds. And we've talked about the broadband, that has come through this committee. And those are big projects. And obviously that's one of the high priorities of the county, to increase broadband infrastructure throughout the county. Those are big projects. They take time and they take coordination with service providers. So difficult to get all that together. We do have until the end of 24 to commit those funds. But there are other things that you could consider as well, as far as the economic response to the pandemic, to help any workers, families, small businesses, any programs like that. So I kind of open the floor up to you to share ideas on what you've heard, comments, things you want to look into further, those kinds of things.
So the committee is aware that this is a standing item added to all committees, which are considered, and this is ours. So it's going to be, can't do something now, something full board.
I guess I didn't know we had until the end of 2024, so there really maybe isn't such a big hurry to get it in this year's budget cycle, which you're working on. Needs to be submitted, I think, by the end of this month for the vote in October. So maybe I wasn't aware of that, so maybe there is time to slow down a little bit.
Yeah, and that's what we're hearing too, is slow down. And it is a big chunk of change. It can make a big difference in this county on how we use those funds. There's the infrastructure package that may come our way as well. So there's some different funding sources that don't come around every day, just every generation or so. There's also money that should become available with the opioid litigation. So that, if there's a settlement there would be a chunk of change perhaps allocated to help that issue, which permeates through all different areas of the county. So we've got different chunks of funding that's coming forward that is new, in addition to the normal operating and capital improvement plans that we do each and every year. These other funding opportunities are going to take a little bit more thought because it's new, it's for specific purposes, and we've got to define what those purposes are and how we want to use those funds. So committed by the end of 24, spent by the end of 26 for the ARPA fund. So as long as they're committed, which is helpful on things like broadband, because right now we're hearing, to get fiber takes a year just to get the fiber once a project is committed. So that will be helpful for those kinds of things. As long as they're committed by 24, they have till the end of 26 to actually spend.
Any other comments from the committee? So we can leave this definitely on the agenda for next month. And everyone should be aware that other committees will be analyzing and discussing ARPA as well. So hopefully we don't eat ourselves trying to spend this money. All right, moving on to number 14, future agenda items.
So on the, I don't know if it's really germane to this committee, but speaking of, budget stuff with the library, I know that they got a lot of money last year, like $200,000 or $300,000, and I know they were closed, you know, most of last year, part of this year, so I don't know how that figures into their math on the next budget request. If they take into account, hey, we were only open, you know, 53% of the year, and if their budget is adjusted based off that, and that goes for other businesses as well. And I do know at their meeting last month at the library, they talked about giving wage increases to their employees. So they're going to, you know, request an increase in their budget, even though they were closed for a lot of last year. So again, I don't know if it's germane to this committee. I just wanted to
Well,
kind of ask that.
let me put some context with that. I guess what I would like to see is the budget problem. I mean, we're starting the budget exercise now. My concern is that we have entities that request money from the county, but they go through their channels to try to get money, and it doesn't come either to the full board until it's a vote, an up or down vote on the budget, or there's some other discussion that doesn't happen in the normal process that other committees or other entities have to go through. So public safety, sheriff's department, ambulance, health and human services all come through a committee in order for their budgets to be approved, and those are significant ticket items, public works, whatever. And then we've got Northwest Regional Planning, which hasn't been here in like 5 months, and they're going to ask what, 60, 80 grand. We've got the libraries that are going to ask for something like 300,000, I think is what we paid out last year. And the only time we see that is when the budget is prepared. And so I guess for future agenda item, I would like the budget to be on there for a discussion of the budget. And either bring yourself or you'll be there anyway, but Mr. Keegan. And we can start seeing what the requests are. I mean, Hayward Lakes Convention Bureau has to fight tooth and nail for their request, and they get pummeled almost every year for what is $25,000 or $50,000. But yet we have other entities that can request up to 4 times that amount, and there's no scrutiny. And so one of the things I think we should be considering at the full board is if there's an entity that wants county funds to be expended to them, they should be coming through a committee of proper authority or proper jurisdiction for that to be vetted. And so that there's a little more light on the budget process. So Mr. Hoff, please don't take that as criticism, because I'm sure that you're thinking, oh shit, that's another step in the process. But I got the same concerns that Mr. Betcher has in terms of some entities just automatically submitting a request, and the only thing you get is an up or down vote on the full budget, and there's nothing in there that flushes it out. And I remember the library discussion from the last 3 years is we have 3 or 4 libraries. One is incredibly aggressive, and then we have 2 that just barely show up. And I haven't liked that budget process since I got on this board. So I think that needs to be vetted. And other counties have the libraries reporting to the extension committee, because it's also known as an extension education committee. So, and then my second part of my soapbox is these entities ask us for money. They ask for support, but they don't come to the committees to provide the information that's necessary. Sawyer County Fair comes some slack. I mean, they come in here almost every time, and actually, to me, that was the highlight of last year's pandemic response, was how they anticipated that, worked within their budget, and it provided what was actually a pretty needed public event with any kind of pandemic type of response. So they did their work.
May I ask a question? Are they aware, are all these communities aware of the expectations? They are.
I mean, how far into your budget request are you?
I'm not aware of if the outside organizations have provided that to Mike yet or not. He sends out a letter, and then we get information. And
Is there kind of, because I know Jesse, this is your first time or second time through the budget process. This is Stacy's first time. So can you just give us the highlights of what the budget process is?
yeah, so we've met with staff. Staff prepares budgets for their departments. So by the end of June, they were to submit their capital improvement plans. That's the big ticket items that get approved. And then the operating budgets, they have until the end of this month to get those together. We've already provided the departments with some information. Personnel costs are a lot of what everyone's budget is. So we compute that for them based on how many employees they have, health insurance, all that sort of thing. So that's provided to departments. Then we package all that up, and then normally we're over budget because of levy limits. We only have a certain amount that we can tax for. So then the major process is to work those budget requests down into what we can afford under the levy. And it's not, pie in the sky type budgets that get submitted. They're usually, just status quo budgets, but everything increases, insurance, health insurance rates, all those sorts of things, which just put us over budget. So that's the trick is trying to figure all that out. So a lot of the work that gets done at the committee level and at the full board level is kind of establishing what those things are that get cut out and that you're comfortable with it. But it gets harder and harder every year.
So June is capital, July is operating, August is what?
Well, then we, compile it, start talking in the committees and the board about where we're at, what we need to do to get the budget under the limit. So August, September, October, those things are happening. Budget gets adopted in November. So there's a public hearing that's normally end of October, early November. Budget adopted in November.
I have a question about some of these entities. I understand get a fair amount of monetary donations. Do you have any visibility on that? And if so, does that offset the amount that the county might allocate in their budget?
Yeah, so an organization like the library does provide, their budget information. So we look at that, provide that. So yeah, it all plays into it. I mean, part of their funding normally is county funding. Does it have to be at the same level? Sometimes there is, like libraries have a statutory level that you have to fund, but you can fund above and beyond that, which we do for libraries. So, but that's a choice that you make. You don't have to do that.
So like, speaking of the library, if they got a $100,000 cash donation from an anonymous donor, would you know that? And would you take that into account in maybe changing their budget from the county?
That should be in their information, all of their funding sources, so that we get a picture of that, yes. And so, yeah, so then the county can change their allocation. I mean, you don't have to do anything more than what you're obligated to statutorily.
So the second part of this, and as we move from number 14 to number 15. So is there any other future agenda items that the committee wants to consider? Okay. Moving on to number 15, other matters for discussion only. So my concern is this. In the last 2 months, there's been kind of almost a contest about what authority committees have over subject matter in different areas, maybe the last 3 months. We went through a major exercise of approving a resolution for the Northwest Regional Planning Commission that never came to this committee. And that concerns me because we have sub-assignments. We have the county board chair serves on that commission directly, and then there's an alternate, but that alternate isn't from this committee. We have library liaisons, but nobody gets a report from the library liaisons. I don't even know what the library liaisons would do. When I was the LCO library liaison, I was working with the librarian to help put their budget together, but that was back in 2017. And then everything got reassigned in 18. And so I really think that the full board needs to consider what the liaison appointments are and have them at least participating with the committees that have the jurisdiction. What I don't like and what I'm seeing more and more is a circumvention so that there's a decision made at the full board level without the proper vetting from the necessary committees that have the responsibility. And it's hard enough to have that responsibility and not have the information that's necessary, but then ask to support that when you get to the full board. And these questions right now are going to cause a ripple effect. There's going to be people that are going to be concerned and upset because we're reinventing a process that's been kind of morphed into. But I am going to ask for and at least start the conversation about the liaisons and the proper responsibility of the committees and making sure that the flow of information is legitimate, transparent, and and that there's some kind of accountability. So library is part of it. Northwest Regional is another one. All 15 of us are elected to represent districts. The chairs of these committees don't have any other further compensation or responsibility other than preparing for committee reports and whatnot. And then the county board chair has the responsibility of representing the county on all those matters. And so the chair acts at the direction of the board. So maybe we can see where this fun and exciting July meeting is going to be. So, any other matters for discussion only?
Any movement on the historical society situation? Do you need help
I can
with that?
check. Yeah, we actually probably need to help them move forward because I don't know if they know what they need. I know that they need it. That's actually a really good question because I think they needed some support in getting advertising out, and they also needed support in terms of volunteers. And then on the Kinnaman side was a conversation to have their committee meet with Historical Society to start figuring out a way to kind of identify the photographs and all that. But I didn't want to have to handhold that. I was hoping that could create on its own, but we may need to take additional steps to address that.
I'd be happy to help with whoever does that.
All right.
I don't want to lead it. I said I'd be happy to help. Okay, all right. Because you looked at me and smirked like, no, I'm not volunteering to lead it.
I will
I gave them
take the lead on that.
I gave them good advertising.
I will take the lead on that. And, see what we can do.
I think the murals, I mean,
It's great advertising.
that's excellent advertising. They look amazing.
All right, I will put that back on for the August agenda, if you would please, Madam Clerk. And I will have a conversation with Karen, and you and I can go talk to the Historical Society.
Yeah.
So I'll be, you get to walk with me.
But maybe you shouldn't talk. Do you want me to talk? Okay, I'll be quiet. You might scare those ladies.
It's gonna be. Anything else? Historical. How's the Burke Binder?
We'll have that next month. Registrations are up at 7,000.
I'm supposed to snow next week.
Yeah.
All right, well, nothing else. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody.